Peace, YouTube. This is Flipbird coming to you today with another topic of discussion. Check on in. I think it is Labor Day weekend in the United Fakes of America. Let me stop. It's too early. Kind of cracked my nail today. Check on in. I think I'm live. It says I'm live, so I think I am. Can you guys see me in the YouTube world? Hey. Hey, Tori Love. You caught your first live? I hope I don't disappoint. I'm a little wild. I could be on Unleashed today, Tori. So hopefully I'll be okay. Hey, Pretty Divine. Aw, I'm okay some days. Hey, Sven. I'm okay some days. I'm not the greatest. I will disappoint you. Don't put me on a pedestal. Some days I'm okay. Other days I'm okay. Hey, Chan. Hey, Chan. Peace, Chan. Peace. I love Chan. Hey, Susu. Hey, Sven. You guys should check out Sven's channel. I like Sven's channel. He's really cool. He's beautiful. Beautiful soul. Beautiful soul beings. Not because they're just connected to the channel, but just because they are. Aw. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, Selma Shay. I heard you guys were watching Clone Tyrone last night. I was out yesterday, and when I came in, I was out again. I was on and out. I hope you guys got more gems. You like my little hair gel? I got this a while ago. I just found it I found it again. Nova Scotia's in the house. Hey, my lovies. Bonjour, bonjour from France. Hey, Yafi. Yafi, how you feeling, mama? Yafi's from Israel. She is a true Israelite. Let me stop gaslighting already. Hey, Yafi. Mwah. Okay. Thank you, y'all. I appreciate the compliments. Thank you. I look very Latina. Ba, 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 ba. Well, technically, because my people are from South America and from the French Caribbean, by way of also Marseille in France, I'm technically a Latina. by speaking a Latin language, you know. But I don't claim anything. I'm going to claim something else today. Thank you, my lovies. Check on in. I'm holding the phone. My computer, I couldn't put the thing on my computer, y'all. I'm holding the phone. So this is like back in the days. Remember our back in the days lives? I used to hold my phone in the car. What was it? I used to hold my phone in the car in the house. So you're going to get like the shaky hands like this. Remember Club? House music all night long. Delma Shane and I were talking about house music. House music all night long. Do you guys remember jungle music and house music? House music all night long. Say what? The phone will be shaking like that. Nobody talks about house music. How come? What happened to house music, all? Did it just fall off? At my prom, they were going bonkers with house and jungle music. If you don't know what that is, y'all, you gotta play it. It's off the chain. House music all night long. My dad used to buy me the albums, y'all. It's really crazy. I love house music. I just don't hear it. I don't remember it until I hear it. Remember that? Listen to it. Yeah, I love it. It's real dance music. Real dance music. Like like I said, I may upload my prom video. I don't know if I can get in trouble for the other people. The guys were going bonkers. It was amazing. So check out it. You got Old School House Head. Oh, I love. If you're from New York or anywhere, because I think all the urban places listen to house music, right? House music is in the gay part. Oh, it's still there? Oh, it's in the gay parties. Okay. So it still lives. So did the gay guys listen to the house music? How come you guys only listen to house music? See, they're happy. That's probably why they're happy all the time. That's why gay means happy. Because they listen to the house music. House music all night long. Say what? I'm gonna listen to it. I gotta get the old. I don't have my albums with me. We're waiting till 500, y'all. I usually chat with you a little bit. Ugh. This phone is gonna bother me holding this phone up, y'all. I tried to sit outside, but there's like people are like driving by. Kid and Play, remember Kid and Play? 10 City. What was Baltimore? You guys had the go-go music. We were talking about the other night. You're from Mexico? Hey, Mexico's in the mother freaking house. Remember, what was it, Baltimore and Maryland? You guys had go-go music, right? I think that was what it was called. Just correct me if I'm correct. Has its own ism, makes house music. Oh, so Israel has DJ. Okay, so Israel, you guys have DJs that do the house music. I think it's like real big. I think it's big like in certain scenes still, but I just, yeah. Floorbone is not going to clubs, y'all. Not anymore. Okay. Not anymore. I used to go to the Tunnel. Big up to my New York brethren. If you from New York, you know I used to go to the Tunnel. I went to the Limelight one time. Red Zone. Palladium didn't let me in. I had a fake ID. Y'all don't tell my daughters. We got a fake ID on 42nd Street. This is, I'm not telling you to do this. This is illegal. This was way years ago when 42nd Street used to be XXX. Does anybody remember when New York City on 42nd Street, that was all like illegal, like what was it? Like peep shows, sex shops. Do you guys remember that? See, if you're from New York, you would know that. If you're a true New Yorker, you would know that 42nd Street was the most salacious, out of control place. That's where I got my fake ID so I could try to get in the Palladium. I tried to get in the Palladium. Oh my God. And guess what? We went there. I was like 15. I told my mother already. She was like, what? We got fake IDs. It was like 30 bucks. That's a lot of money back in the days. You know how much we had to save up? 30 bucks, okay? Got fake IDs, 15. Tried to get in the Palladium. They didn't let us in, but guess who let us in? Bentley's let us in. So Bentley's, London's in the house. You guys have good clubs. Bentley. So if you remember anybody from New York, you remember Bentley's? Bentley's. Oh yeah, there were hookers on 42nd Street. Do you guys remember all that stuff? Yeah, it was wild. 42nd Street was salacious, y'all. It's not what it looks like now. It's cleaned up. It's been gentrified. Gentrified. You remember Bentley's? Oh, I went to Bentley's. That's the only place that let us in. And I think they knew I looked young. I don't know what my ID said. It probably said 21. I don't know. We probably made up a date. It's so bad. I don't know. Probably said 30. Oh boy. That was back in the days. And we didn't get in trouble. We weren't hanging out with boys. We weren't having sex. You know, the thing about, well, at least when I grew up, at least my group of friends, we weren't really into like, we were into dancing with boys. But we weren't into like, we were into dancing, like listening to the music, partying all night. Like it wasn't about like doing all that craziness, like doing drugs or anything. We were all about partying, dancing all night, talking about it with our friends on Monday at school. Like, yo, do you know what club we went to? Yeah, it was a beautiful time. Beautiful time, you know? We used to go to, we used to take the subway to everywhere. There were no Ubers back then. It was the yellow cabs, which most of those were too expensive, or the dollar cabs. I don't know if some of you know about the dollar cabs. The dollar cabs were really inexpensive, okay? So we had dollar cabs and we had no Ubers. We had Subway. And if you had a little extra money, because my father used to buy me a Metro North card, but that only ran until a certain time. I'm telling you all my business. Check on it, y'all, because I'm about to be messy anyway. Let's just, you said free Diddy? I thought he was free. That don't look like a jail cell he's in. Remember, it had like mosaic beveling on the inside of his dorm. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Big up to all the old club heads in here. House music all night long. Say what? Ah, we're gonna have to play some jungle music later. They still have dollar cabs? What? Wait, they still call them dollar cabs? I didn't know they have dollar cabs still. Oh man. Do they? Those dollar cabs saved our lives a lot of times. You know, young girls going out at night. We were safe though, y'all. It's a little different now, but back then we were pretty safe. Yeah, falling asleep on a train wasn't very sanitary, but remember the day when you used to have to pay for minutes on your phone? These are like the retro conversations we need to have. Remember when your phone, like you get your cell phone? Remember when you had a beeper and it was like 7.99, and if you had a special beeper, it was 12.99 a month, and you had to go pay it? My girlfriend forgot to pay it, and I had to go on 4th Avenue in Melbourne and pick up to Melbourne. I had to go to 4th Avenue in Melbourne and pay her bill for her. It was like 12.99. She was like, I missed my bill. I'm not going to be able to use my beeper. I went down there, and that's a lot of money. 12.99. I hit her up. Then we got the cell phones, and then we had to pay for minutes. And it was free after 6 p.m. So you had to wait to talk to your boo unless you had like a rotary phone. I had my rotary phone at my mom and dad's house. Yeah. But remember, you got to pay for minutes. And let me tell you, I got a bill one time. Oh, my mother was livid. Livid. Oh, the bill was like $500. Listen, I must have been talking probably like an hour before the 6 p.m. And that bill was like $500. My mother was so livid. I was like, I'll pay you. I'll pay you. I didn't even know. It was crazy. You can't even dispute it. Y'all don't know what struggle is. You don't know what struggle is. When you got to talk to your boo after 6 p.m. And if you talked a minute before, you won't pay. Oh boy. Big up to all those who were down with the struggle back in the days of having to pay minutes and wait until after 6 to talk to your homegirls. It was crazy. Oh my God, it was insane. These are these are the issues of the 90s. Then what is it, like the 90s crew? 90s, 80s, 70s. Who else? I don't think the baby boomers. Baby boomers all had rotary phones though. Did you baby boomers had cell phones? I think you guys still have. I think baby boomers still have rotary phones. My parents had a rotary phone until the very end, until they took that sucker away out the house. Blackberries. Oh, I love it. But a Blackberry's on a phone that can't really infiltrate. That's why remember Obama had a Blackberry, and that's the only phone he used, because I think that's the one they can't really tap into. at least at least now, I think, right? I love Blackberries. I like my flip phone. I got a flip phone. I just can't turn it on. Look at all the old school people in the house. Pick up to the old schools in the house. Look at Motorola. I love y'all. We should be grateful we're still here. We're like the relics of this new generation. What? We ain't elders yet, but we gonna get there, hopefully. Nibiru, Nebuchadnezzar's coming to get some of us, but for those of you who are staying, I hope you stay around to tell the old stories. So you could play some house music for your grandchildren. You be cracking knuckles. You be cracking, your knees will be cracking. House music all night long. Say what? Crack, crack. Oh, grandma's she's just a little, seasoned. Your knees be cracking. Because those dance moves for house music, you like kicking in the air, kick a bone off, your bra pops off. Hey, yo, listen, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. Come on, Granny, house music all night long. Say what? Get the old Motorola out of it. Baby, you don't know what pain is until you've used a flip phone and you couldn't use it until 6 p.m. When your grandfather was trying to call me and he was trying to wait for me on the corner of 42nd Street because we were going to do nothing good on 42nd Street. I had to wait until 5:59 and count the seconds down for your grandfather to leave me a message. The struggle is real. Team frogs. Oh, that's right. I am an amphibian. I will claim what I am at the beginning at 500. At 500, I will give you my new labels that I am accepting. I have new labels. I told you last time I came out of the closet and it was very hard for me. And I'm really respectful. Thank you for everyone who really respected that I am a trans frog. I think you've all really been supportive. You've sent me lily pads, frog emojis. You've made beautiful poetry, denoting, connecting the nomos and me to frogginess. Kermit the Frog, you sent me a lot of like note stamps and stuff. I really appreciate it. You think I don't, but I really do. But then when I brought out my new expression of me being a demisexual, oh, the love you poured onto me, oh, it was amazing. I want to thank you all for accepting when I came out of the closet as a frog and now a demisexual. But I have another new label. It's not new, but I'm just coming out of the closet. So when we get to 500, we're gonna talk about it. Okay? Oh, and big up to everybody. Thank you, Rod. Thank you for everyone who showed a lot of love to Rod. That was really kind. He comes on the channel. I really appreciate it. Some of you there was some really funky people. Oh, you primordials. Let me be messy real quick before we start our topic of discussion. You primordial, what's wrong with y'all? What is like they had a problem with Rod coming on here. What's wrong? Are you struggling with your sexuality? Listen, if I can come out as a demisexual and a frog, you should come out as a hyper lesbian. I like men. I don't know if you know that or not. I think if you've been on my channel a long time, you realize that I love healthy men. I don't know why you get mad if there's a man on the channel and we're talking and it pisses you off that I'm talking to a man. I don't know what kind of struggle you have. You can't get a penis. They don't make them like that anymore. I don't know what's going on with y'all. I don't know if you have penis envy. I don't know if you want to be a man. I don't know what's going on. But you primordials need to stay in your lane. If you don't like my channel, if you don't like me talking to men, then you picked the wrong channel. Okay? I talk to men. There will be real men on the channel. And I love men. The primordials came after me because I had Rod on the channel. I was like, what the heck is what in the Kermit the Frog moment is this? Saying all kinds of craziness. You're out of control. Maybe they do have penises on sale. I don't know. Go to Rabbi Shmuley. He's selling them. Well, those are butt plugs. You can use them dually. Okay? Maybe you need a penis in your life. I can't help you with that. But certainly don't come to me about some craziness, primordial witches, switches. You're out of control. Keep that on your channel or the other primordial channels that support your nastiness. Okay? I have nothing for you. They were so mad. I've never seen anything. Okay, we're there. Let me stop being messy. Okay. Peace to the east, the west, to the north, to the south. This is Flare Room coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. So before I start, the sun is going down. Okay. I have to come out with while I'm starting the topic of discussion, I want to come out of the closet again. Like I said, you've accepted me as a trans frog. You've also accepted me as my newly founded demisexual disposition. But I've always felt this way and have been connected genetically to this particular realization. Okay, I am 100% Israel light. I came out of the closet. I am an Israelite. I accept my tribe. Part of my family comes from the tribe of God and the other one from the tribe of Levi. I want to accept my newly status as an Israelite. I hope you accept me. Okay? So I really don't appreciate when you talk about Israelite or anything that has to do Israel because you're disrespecting my heritage. Okay? And if you come against me and you say anything crazy, you will be called an anti-Semite. Okay? Say what you want. I know some of you won't accept me. You were I am an Israelite, y'all. I've accepted it. I've come out of I don't even think I was in a closet, but I want to share that with you before I start the topic of discussion. And like I said, any of you primordial crazy people who want penises, if you talk anything about me or me being an Israelite and say anything about that and concerning Israel, you are anti-Semitic. And there are new laws that protect me and not you. Boo-hoo. Okay? So let me start the topic of discussion. All right. So we're going to talk about the Darrows. And why this is important that I brought that up is because there's a cosplaying group that is claiming to be Israelites, but they're really satanic centaurians. Wait. Satanic centaurians. Let me get it right. I think I have it in my title. Okay? They're really Satanists. And they're cosplaying, and what they're doing is creating an environment where you utilize things that they're doing and blame what they're cosplaying as and saying nasty things about the actual Israelites that has nothing to do with them. Okay, so we're going to get into it. Okay? So big up to the Israelites in the mother freaking house. If you want to come out of the closet and join us, by all means, okay? There's new laws that protect us. I'm just saying. I'm not incentivizing you, but I'm just saying. They don't protect brown people. They don't protect women, but they will protect you if you're an Israelite, because that is important, okay? And we have new laws that protect us from people talking disparagingly about our background and our nationality. And now because of those new laws, we are very protected, okay? I'm just letting you know, so you can come out of your Israelite closet too and find out your tribe that you belong to. Okay, so we're going to talk about it. So we're going to talk about the Darrows, and what you see in the picture. And I'm being facetious, y'all. Just come with me. You know, please don't be offended in any which way, because we're going to talk about something that's very real to our environment right now and how it's affecting us, and also the spells and occult rituals that are happening with certain kind of verbiage that is being perpetuated on all social media, and you don't realize that you're being used to perpetuate a ritual that the satanic centaurians are using against you. I like to call them Darrows because if you look at the image I put inside of the on my clip, you'll see the Elephant Man. Do you guys remember watching The Elephant Man as a child? Does anybody here put a 13 if you've watched The Elephant Man? It was really sad. I think we discussed it on Zoom, and we talked about the fact that it was a really sad documentary about a gentleman who had elephantitis, had features. It was really sad. And I don't want to make fun of that character because that's a real person according to historical references, okay? So when you're looking at the actual Elephant Man, people thought that this was some sort of genetic abnormality, some sort of like deformity that was caused by something heinous. Now, I don't say that that couldn't be plausible. But I'm going to talk about the fact that the Darrows have a visual look that is reminiscent of the Elephant Man. And perhaps what you were seeing or what was being displayed was the genetic quality of a full-blown, full-blooded Darrows in its natural form. And when you're looking at that being and you're seeing that, you're going to see a group of people that have some of the phenotypes kind of watered down some, but they still hold on to some of the Elephant Man, the elephantitis kind of visual look. That's what we're talking about, the Darrows. Oh, I forgot what it is. It is the satanic subterranean centaurians. That's what they are. Okay? They cosplay as Israelites. But why they do it is I'm going to speak about the ritual that they're doing and how some of you may be participating unbeknown to you. Okay, so when we talk about the entire globe at this point, when we have a group of Satanists, satanic subterranean centaurians that have created an entire world where everything good is bad and everything bad is good, where they flipped everything, reversed it so that they are presenting the world with centaurian values, very sadistic type of behavior, where molesting and raping children is acceptable, where perceiving women as sexually only is very much part of their mindset. Um, there's a concept of supremacy, but it's really just them projecting what they want you to perceive them as so that you put them in that light and manifest that into their reality. These are the Deros, okay? So they're presently the triple OG lifers on this particular planet. Now, they've been trying to escape here for a long time. They actually have many different sub-tier groups that are part, I wouldn't say all the participants underneath them, under their umbrella, are their genetic beings, but they do fund all those sub-tier groups. So when you talk about the Masons, or when you talk about the 33 Masonic groups, when you talk about certain satanic occult groups, certain kind of other occultists that kind of go under their umbrella too, the Brotherhood of what is it called? The Serpentine Brotherhood. What's the other one? The Wizards of Gosh, or something like that. They have multiple, Moloch, they have multiple groups that are under their umbrella, but generally they are the umbrella of all the groups that serve them and perpetuate the environment that all of you are engaging in at this point. And during the time when we're about to go through reset, go to reset and pole shift, they tend to do this. Now, you're going to say, Flirtburn, how do you know this? There's historical references of these beings going throughout time, and no one knew where they came from. Some would say they were very gypsy-like. They had very bulbous features, very not appeasing to humans. So when they did come about in certain areas, they would try to cloak themselves by wearing hoods, or try to, generally, the people where they came about, where they would come upon these people, these satanic, like subterranean beings, which I call the Deros. They literally would come upon them and would be in shock. Like, they would be in awe because of the way that they look so different than how what we perceive to be humans look. Their phenotype was a little odd. They didn't look like they were something that would be out in public. It was really frightening to a lot of people. They generally go in groups, and they generally will do things to try to learn the population's whatever they do well, and they learn it, and they try to cosplay it. And once they copy it enough, once they learn the whatever is part of that community, then what they do is they generally will placate themselves as those people while poisoning, killing them, or trying to take over that environment. Okay, that's why a lot of times they get pushed out of many different countries, because people get on, get wind of these type of, subterranean beings coming in, killing off the kids. Usually what they notice is first, a lot of the accounts from historical archives talk about these beings coming into their neighborhoods, and the children start missing. Okay, that's the first thing that every single account, when you hear of the accounts of people saying when they come upon these Babylonian, satanic, ritualistic beings, is that the children start missing almost immediately. Oh my God. Oh, wait. Thank you, Mary. Mari says, oh my God, Trump doing after satanic underground and DC tunnels news before today. Oh, wow. Trump going after satanic underground in DC today. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the donation. Thank you. I didn't know. So when you hear of these groups coming in, this Deros coming in, they would literally come in, sweep through an area, learn the populations, whatever they do, learn it, mimic it, copy it, and then start to take over the environment, and then placate themselves like they're the people. Now, why is this very important? Because this group of subterranean satanic centaurians have taken over the entirety of the planet. What I will say this is that they're unable to leave here because they're like triple OG prisoners. They haven't any sort of connection to source. A lot of them who are working under the umbrella of these subterranean beings have lost their ability to leave because they've compromised their soul essence by, engaging in sexual pedophilia or being apathetic to it, meaning that maybe they're not participants, but they're engaged in ignoring it or putting a blind eye to it, or creating things that allow for these beings to flourish so that they can perpetuate it. But because you're doing that, you've already compromised, and you've already been omitted for having the possibility of leaving or having parole out of this realm. So you're going to be staying here with those subterranean Darrows because you have participated with them and you've allowed them to engage in ways that compromise other people. So you have compromised your ability to be able to leave here and to ascend out of this realm, this kind of imprisonment realm where these beings do very well here. Okay, so when we talk about these centaurians, these type of subterranean beings, they have some sort of telekinesis powers. Now, why I say this is because if you see any accounts of these beings, like if you see images of people talking about the Darrows or when they first come upon the Darrows, say like, if you ever see Jabba the Hutt, did you ever see Jabba the Hutt or Baron from Dune? Like, what was it like one of the barons from Dune when they're very gluttonous looking, like they look very, like I said, like the Elephant Man, but just on the entirety of the body. These beings hold that kind of look, that kind of visual look. But one of the things when you'll see the account, oh, thank you, my love. Thank you, Mia Bello. Mia Bello. I love it. Mwah. Bellissimo. Thank you, Mia Bella. Bello. I love your name, Belle. Is it Belle? Mia Belle. Beautiful name. Thank you, my love. Um, when what was I saying? When when you look at those characters on television and you see that their accounts of what you perceive to be Darrows, they always show like this weird kind of spiral. When the Darrows come from the subterranean world, they come out on the surface, and you'll see like in like comic books or archives when they're referencing these Darrows, you'll always see this spiral. And what the spiral represents is a form of telepathy or telekinesis powers that they have. Because again, for these beings to take over an entire realm, they would have to have some sort of super kinetic abilities, some sort of supernatural abilities that is not common for the natural human beings on the surface. And they would have to be able to use that in order to convince or to allow for the population to comply whatever they desire. Okay. Now, many of you, if you've never heard of the Darrows, I challenge you to go look them up. Things like this I can't make up. I would hope it was something to make up, because then this realm would be more cohesive to live in and less satanic. But when you look into the Darrows and you look at when they were first received by the surface population, the first thing that people saw was their visual, which was very disheartening, very and remember, I don't want to shame anyone physically, because remember, there's different types of cosmic beings, interdimensional beings, and inner earth beings that don't look quite what we perceive to be phenotypically attractive. Okay, we have on earth a kind of mindset of what we consider to be beauty standards, and they were far from that as far as how people receive them, how they perceive them when they initially came upon them. Okay, and you'll see several different accounts in different parts of Europe where these beings showed up out of the blue. And for some reason, initially people were in awe, like frightened. But then after a while, they accepted them. You have to know that there's some sort of telepathy control, mind control telepathy that these beings most likely had to be able to overcome some of that initial hesitancy of the population that came upon them. Okay. And right now, what you're seeing now, as we fast forward into 2025, we have an entire takeover of the globe under the firmament of these beings who have taken over every single society, and they are now controlling the narrative, the the narration of how we coexist. And why this could be an issue, and again, if you're a Deros, this is a world that's made for you. Where pedophilia, where you have many of the Willy Wonka systems that are ran by pedophiles that are okaying in many of these societies. They're rewriting laws, making the sexual the laws of consent lower. So now you have, like in Germany, I think the consent laws are lower where children are. Can someone who's from Germany? Can someone let me know? I think it was as young as like 9, if I'm not mistaken, or 10. I don't want to make that claim, but I want someone from Germany tell me if it was a law that was just done not too long ago. A lot of the European countries are rewriting laws, making it acceptable for the consent of young people for sexual interface with adults. Okay, I just want to know if Germany, yeah, Germany, let me know, because I know I don't remember the date. I want to make sure I have the age correct. Okay, so with that, it is a Deros narration. This is how they live. They live in a world that's very satanic, where sexual deviancy is part of their natural way of existing. They feed off of loosh and what you perceive to be adrenochrome. They generally utilize. That's why in Europe at the time when these beings came upon them, the first thing that people noticed in their neighborhoods was that the children would go missing, because part of the way that they can keep control is by killing the children, murdering them, and utilizing them as not only for ritualistic forms to be able to yield power over whatever they want, but also they consume the flesh and the blood of those children. And they also use what we can perceive today to be adrenochrome. Okay, that is part of who they are. When we talk about different species and we talk about extraterrestrials and interterrestrials, we never really talk about some of the natural propensities of these beings. And because these beings are utilizing children, especially babies, that's why last video I talked about the young girls. I say, listen, you might want to refrain from doing abortions. You might want to refrain from giving your unborn child to beings, because again, they utilize the aborted babies to also use for rituals, they utilize some of those stem cells to perpetuate themselves, because they have such an unnatural status on the surface of the planet, and their physicality doesn't allow them to sustain themselves very well on the surface. They constantly need to get a lot of the surface humanoids, blood, their genetics, to be able to sustain themselves and perpetuate themselves healthily on the surface of the planet. So it is a necessity that they consume, they process, and they harvest humanoids, biological their flesh, their organs, what have you, to sustain themselves. Okay, I'm sorry, I hope are you guys okay with me talking about this? I don't want to go too far. I'm trying to be as kosher, no pun intended, as possible. But when we talk about these beings, I have to talk about these beings because they have done a wonderful job of taking over the entirety of the planet. Not only are they perpetuating and making the natural laws and regulations support their deviant satanic behavior, they have the population perpetuating behavior that is reminiscent of what they do. Okay, that's why all of the, back in the days, big up to my hip hop heads. We got hip hop heads in here who like old school hip hop. I know you like, you remember Big Daddy Kane. I know you like Eric B. and Rakim. I know you like all your old hip hop that you used to listen to that was very happy, Houdini, all the wonderful hip hop that was enlightening and wonderful, all the music that was inspirational, that brought the youth to a state of consciousness and made them aware and gave them a sense of responsibility for their community. Public Enemy. I remember my parents, my dad, I talk about this all the time, used to buy concert tickets for myself to go to concerts. Maybe because my dad was a foreigner, but He did it because he understood and he respected the culture, and he felt like a lot of the things the youth were saying were positive. But as you know, because in Darrows, the Darrows have taken over all of the record companies, the Darrows made sure to be at the top so that they can facilitate the type of music that they want the Israelite, I'm going to go into that, Israelites to listen to lower their frequency and to make them less of what they're supposed to be for extraction, to compromise themselves so that when Nibiru comes around to pick up or to wake up the Israelites, they will be compromised, and they would have handicapped their ability to be able to be lifted out of their circumstances. Now, why it's important to discuss the Darrows having such control over certain communities of beings they are cosplaying, where they have flipped who they are, and they have told you who you are so that you perceive yourself to be something different than what they claim to be, which is you. Okay? Because at the last turn, now remember, I don't know that the Darrows always claim to be Israelites. I don't know that they've always done that. I know in this particular cycle, that's what they claim to be. And I know that when they went to claim it, they had to destroy many connected to the real one, because you can't be a good copy if you've got an original around. It's very difficult, but also you aren't allowed to destroy all of the Israelites, because you have to stay close proximity to pick up the frequency that is needed for you to placate that role. What do I mean is, because anywhere you go on the planet where these Darrows are, you'll notice they're in close proximity of hoods. They build their religious buildings next to the hood. They stay in close proximity of every hood. Look at every hood. Why is there a Darrow's school next to the hood? Why are they so close to the hood? Why, when you go to Brooklyn, they're in the middle of the hood next to the very people that have the actual genetic disposition of the Israelites, which the Darrows are claiming that they are. Okay? Now, when we talk about that, we have to look at some of the historical accounts and also, I always like to give proof in the pudding, because I always say, well, this could be made up. I could be making this up. I could be lying. I could be making this up in my head, which some people would say. But then I look at the behavior of every time someone has changed the name of a certain status of people. And then I look at certain things historically and seen where narration and repopulation and also reclassification happens. What do I mean by this? Let me bring up the word Negro. I play with that word a lot. You'll hear me say Negro often. And when you look at the old archives of how many times brown Americans have been reclassified from Negro, colored, and presently to African American, which is purposefully to take away any of their connection to where they actually come from. Okay, so we talk about the reclassification of the so-called Negro. Why Negro is important, and I would like everyone to watch this, and I would say big up to Kyrie, who took the hit for this, which I don't think he ever knew he would take a hit for this. But there is a wonderful documentary, and it wouldn't have mattered so much until the reaction of the fake Israelites. The Darrows got really offended when Kyrie Irving suggested that people look at the documentary called, is it Negroes to Hebrews? Or Negroes to Hebrew? No, Hebrews to Negroes. Because is it Hebrew? I think is it Hebrews to Negroes? Is it? It's Hebrews to Negroes, correct? Okay. I want everybody in here. I challenge you. Go look at that documentary. And when I speak to our sea stars abroad who are living in the Middle East, and we talk about some of the changes that have happened over the years, and how my professor Jeffries was kicked out of the University of CCNY. Big up to all the people who went to school in New York City, like myself. I had a professor Jeffries who was kicked out of the university and fired for saying that the Jews participated in the slave trade. At the time, I was a young girl. I started college, university very young at 17, and I didn't understand why he was fired and that was a reality. Fortunately, Dr. Jeffries was reinstated because in fact, that was the truth. And we have to be careful because saying Jewish is not just one people. Jewish does not mean one people. When you say the word Jewish, it does not mean lunars. It does not mean one Ashkenazi. When you say the word Jewish, there are a lot of people who are under that umbrella. There are people who are Ethiopian who consider themselves to be Jews. There are people who are Arabs, Africans from Morocco, from Turkey, from Sudan, from Somali, right? Somali, with Somali, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Turkey, Morocco, Egypt, that are actually Jews. They perceive themselves to be Jews, okay? So when we talk about this concept of Jewry, we have to be careful because there's a lot of people under that umbrella. And when you talk about a lot of the people on the umbrella, we got to bring up a point that where there was not only a group of Deros that was hiding in this group of people, though there are actually Israelites in this group under the umbrella of Jewishness, they're under it, but so are the Deros. Okay. But the Deros, I told you before, I gave you a little hint. The Deros love to be next to true Israelites because you can't placate a people if you don't have the energy of the people. And if you don't have the true essence, the genetic essence of Israelites, you got to be next to them. So what do? You create a place and then you invite a group of people that actually have the genetic quality and you stay in close proximity of them so that you can hold the essence of them without actually being them, because proximity is everything. Okay, proximity is everything. Okay, so big up to our Jewish community, the Ethiopians, our Moroccans, our Turkish, our amazing Somalis, Sudanese, who else is, and also our Caribbean people who come from the actual Israelites. Absolutely. Big up to our Jamaican family, Bahamians, big up to our North American family who hold also a lot of the genetic quality of the Israelites. Because remember, when Professor Jeffries was kicked out, he was kicked out for saying that the Jews participated in the slave trade. But when you say the word Jewish, you cannot just hold one concept of it. You got to understand there are many people that hold this title, okay? But he didn't say which Jewish people were participants in the slave trade. Now, when you look at, big up to our amazing Sunstar, who's part of our group in Zoom. He gave me an article, and all I remember is seeing the top part. And it said something that was very interesting. And I'll go into the library that I was allowed to go to called the RISM that moves around every 2 weeks in Manhattan that has all of the books that are banned by the government. Okay, let me go into what was said in this article. On the top of the article, it said, one could not distinguish the difference between a Gentile, a Jew, or a Moor. Just let that sink in for a minute, because they all had dark skin. Let me say that again. One couldn't tell the difference. They could not determine the difference between a Gentile, a Moor, or a Jew of dark skin, because they all had dark skin. So now we have to realize that there's something fishy going on when we speak in terms of the so-called slave Atlantic movement, right? So supposedly they've told you, and I've explained this before, but I'll kind of touch on it a little bit. They've told you that the brown people in the Americas were all from Africa. They were all shipped from Africa over into the Americas. Well, I've already shown you, and I think if you've done your due diligence, you already know that this is a lie. This is a lie because if you notice the accounts, if you go to Europe, you can go to the English, you can go to in UK, there's plenty of museums, also in Spain, I know in Madrid, and also in Italy. And you can actually see the first accounts of what the Europeans saw when they came into the Americas and what they look like. They look like the modern day Negro. I can't make it up. If you really have a problem with this, you can go and look at the archives yourself. There's a beautiful image of an emperor that was brown, dark brown skin, not even mulatto, because people are like, oh, because once you say they're lighter skin, you can say, oh, it's ambiguous. It's not. They're just lighter skin. No, 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 no. A brown skin native from the Americas, because remember, there wasn't any differentiation of land masses until the Europeans came in. And not all Europeans, what I'm talking about, were the ones I'm talking about now, where there was a breaking up of different regions, which we call, the Caribbean now and America. It was all one, the Americas, okay? Come to find out that all of those brown people were already living and existing in tribal base in the Americas, okay? And on those initial ships that came in, which you can see to this day, were Europeans, lunar Europeans coming from Europe into the Americas. Those were only ships that were accounted for initially. The concept of Negroes, African Negroes coming from Africa, came later. What was initially accounted for were the Europeans that were brought into the Americas because of the number of brown natives that were there, that they were trying to get numbers over. There was too many Negroes there. Okay, so they needed to get a hefty amount of numbers of lunar Europeans over in order to have the numbers to be able to take over the country. You can't take over the country if you don't have the numbers. Okay. Now, when you talk about the so-called people who brought them over, we always talk about this concepts of, were they Moors or were they Jewish? Or was there a concept of them being, when I say Jewish, I use it very loosely, because Jewish, again, is not a label of ethnicity necessarily as far as complexion is concerned. There are many people that are under the umbrella. We have the Ashkenazi Jews, which is just a very, very European. They were converts at one time from Russia. Okay, so they converted. A lot of people call them Khazarians because they were Khazarian Russians. Okay, they converted to the what we can perceive to be the religion of Judaism. Okay, and then you have the Sephardic Jews, which are a combination, like most people say, they're generally from Spain, Turkey, Morocco, like generally that area. I would even extend it into Africa. Some people don't say that that's true, but I personally think we can go further in. Okay. So when we see that these beings have, these so-called people were brought into the Americas, we also have to take into account that there were certain brown people that were reconfigured in the Americas to move them from north to south, east, and west, meaning that the brown population was then reconfigured from some from the north into the Caribbean, some from the Caribbean into the south, some from the south to the north. They were reconfigured. What was the motivation of this? Reconfiguring was, there were groups of America's indigenous that were perceivably, this is according to historical accounts, Israelites that were that came from the tribes of Sheba. Now, many people say the tribes of Judah. As far as I know, it's the tribes of Sheba. There are 13 tribes, though many say 12, and they were reconfigured and they were incentivized to change their practices from what you perceive to be Judaism and take on a new religious background. Incentivized, probably threatened. We can talk about how they were changed, how they were reconfigured, but they were motivated to change their behavior or their practices from Judaic practices, from some of the old practices that are practiced also by many Jewish people around the world, and told that they had to take on the new religious structure of Catholicism. Thus, you'll understand that why you should have always questioned how in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, and parts of the North America, all these brown indigenous all took on Catholicism as opposed to the other Christian-based practices. because remember Rome, everything is, what did Rod say? Everything is Rome. Something is everything is Rome, right? So that was a byproduct of an agreement that was made that if these people weren't to be prosecuted or to be held, I gotta get the book for that. I'm gonna get the book for that, y'all. I gotta remember telling you this. There's a book that talks about this. There was some sort of prosecution that was going to happen if you held Israelite status. In order for you and your family to stay safe because of this new influx of people coming out of Europe, you had to take on the reclassification of Catholicism, specifically Catholicism, which we know is connected to Rome, right? Rome didn't die, it just was gentrified. And it was re-identified and placed in other, in other realms. Then we can understand why I talk about going into South America, and though the countries are supposedly Spain, like Argentina is considered to be a Spanish country. Brazil is considered to be a Portuguese country. But when I go into the countries, I notice the high amount of Italians. Even the baseline of the culture of those countries is Italian based. You can challenge me this. Go into Brazil and ask why you have all these pastas places. Why do you have gelati being sold everywhere? Why do you have a baseline of the culture of Italy all in the Americas? Because Rome didn't die. It just it moved out of its old place so that it can be identified, and it found a new location. Okay. Um, I don't want to go all over the place. Are you guys with me a little bit? Because I'm going to go into the Israelite and why this matters. Okay, so if you challenge that, I travel and I challenge you to go. I don't just talk about it; I be about it. If you challenge me on this, I ask you go to beautiful Argentina. Big up to our Argentinians. I love Argentina, and go into Brazil, and you will see a high amount of people who have Italian lineage. And you got to ask yourself, why are there so many Italians there? Okay. Okay. We're going to go into the Rome aspect a little later. Okay. So when we realized that there was this reconfiguration in the Americas where a group of indigenous brown people were reconfigured and incentivized to be relocated and classified in order to hide their true identity, then you'll see why there was a constant reclassification and renaming of the brown people in the Americas. Why are the brown people in the Americas the only ones who constantly have name changes every 10 or 15 years? Why is their identity always reclassified? What would incentivize any country to constantly do that unless they were trying to take them further and further away from their indigenous status, but also take them away from their Israelite status, the status of their ancestors who had practices that were very reminiscent of what you would see the Jewish people of today practicing. Okay. And when you look at the tribes, the different tribes that are actually, Oracle, I'm going to put the Oracle actually gave me, it's really fascinating, y'all. And I would ask you if this is something that you feel is maybe over the top, you feel like it's not really sounding right. I don't really have the lexicon, but definitely I have a chart of the different beings in the Americas that are Israelites that are from the 13 tribes. I say 13 tribes, even though they say it's the 12 tribes of Judah. I consider them to be the 13 tribes of Sheba. Okay. When you hear the story and the accounts, especially big up to our Jamaican brethren, because it was really, I got to say this, it was my Professor Jeffries that kind of brought up things in my mind, but it was really a Jamaican Rastafari, and I talk about this all the time, who literally piqued my interest in showing me the Torah, but the Torah in terms of of a book that has Selassie? Selassie, am I pronouncing it correctly? Please correct me if I'm saying it. Am I saying right? Selassie? Can someone pronounce it for me? So I want to pronounce it correctly. It was our let me see if someone which was the let me see if someone can read, because I want to pronounce it correctly. I know you guys will correct me on that. Selassie. Okay, Selassie. Thank you, my love. Thank you. Thank you, Assad Selassie. And I remember I was going to Hal Selassie. Thank you, my loves. Thank you. Haile Selassie. Okay. So, did you see the video I sent you with the uh, Menashe tribe in Nigeria? No, no. Yafi, please resend that to me. Send that to me again. Okay. So, when I went to Jamaica and I met a wonderful Rastafari, and we were sitting, there was a mango tree by, and we were sitting down talking, and he showed me the book. It was a Torah, and it was a book that had the lions on the front and Selassie on the front, and it had the different tribes of Sheba. And I was so fascinated. You know, I'm a bit of a historian, not really. Rod is so much better than I, but I'm a bit of a, I'm intrigued by his historical accounts, especially things I've never heard of. And I'm looking through this book, and he was telling me about the tribe I'm connected to. And he was like, you're of the tribe of God. And also he was saying on your father's side, you're probably of the tribe of Levi. Okay. If any of you know about the different tribes of the 12 tribes of Sheba, which many of you call the 12 tribes of Judah, I would take a look and see where your people are connected to certain tribes that are part of the Israelites. The Israelites. Okay. Now I'm going to build this. I'm just giving you a little narrative to go and do your own research. Y'all, I'm not perfect at it. Go and do your research, because I'm building on what I'm going to share with you, and why it's important for each one of you to stop talking negative about Israel. Stay with me. I'm not a plant. I'm not paid for. Netanyahu hasn't sent me a check. I'm telling you why. And I'm telling you what they're doing so that you keep doing it, so that you foul yourself up. Because remember, there's a group of Darrows who've taken on a nationality that they're not. But what they're doing is they're selling it so that you talk negatively about yourself. Listen to me, y'all. I hope you can. Are you getting where I'm going with this? We have a whole thing going on right now with a war in the Middle East where there's two sides and things happening, atrocities that are beyond comprehension. But these beings are really smart, and they're occultists, y'all. They're occultists. They're bait and switchers. So what they do is they're doing such nasty things in the name of Israel, so you talk dirty about them. But what you do when you talk about Israel, you talk bad about yourself. It's listen, y'all, you don't realize it, and I know you think, listen. It's clever. It's clever. Let me do the most nasty things in the name of Israel, and let everyone in the world talk nasty about them, so that you speak about yourself, an Israelite. Because when you talk about them, now you're talking about yourself. There is no place called Israel. Israel is here. It's never been a place. It is who you are. It is not a place. It is who you are. So when you talk about it, listen, I just came upon this, y'all. I just came upon this. It is crazy how they do a wonderful bait and switch. They do the nastiest thing in the name of another nationality, that is you, that they've cosplayed and taken on your nationality, who you are. That's why Kylie Irving was treated so disparagingly by that group and given such a backlash when he told you to look at the book and look at the biography from Hebrew to Negro. Okay, he was given such a backlash. You know why? Because they can't let you take on that nationality. They can't let you take on who they stole. They can't let you take on the role that they stole. They have to stay in close proximity of you. They got to control you. They have to be the agency of you, but they can't have you claim it. Okay, because if you claim it, then they are delegitimized. But what they will do is take on your name and dirty it and sully it and make you talk dirty about them, so that you talk about your own ancestry, you talk about yourself, and you lower the frequency of who you are, because now you don't realize in the verbiage that is being perpetuated to make you talk about that nation, you are now sullying yourself. It is classic bait and switch, y'all. I was watching the way that they ritualize everything, the occult ritual with the saying free Palestine. That is an occult ritual. That is another George Floyd remix. They're going to have a new one. If the pole shift doesn't happen the way it does, they're going to have a new one. It's not going to be George Floyd. It's not going to be free Palestine. It's going to probably be free Kermit the Frog. Okay. They're going to pick something else. When you say that terminology, you're using part of their ritual. They want you to say that. The Free Palestine is a psyop. It is purposefully perpetuated so that you say a statement that they've ritualized, probably done a whole lot of spells, and I don't know what they've done. I can't promise to tell you that I know. I know it's a ritual, and I know it's an occult ritual. And I know it's very reminiscent of the George Floyd can't breathe. Because look what happened when everybody was saying they can't breathe with the George Floyd debacle. It's not saying things don't happen under the guise of what's happening over in Gaza and over there. It's not saying that's not happening, but it has been ritualized so that you perpetuate the ritual by saying things. So they'll say, "Oh, we don't want you to say it. Oh, we're going to get you in trouble for saying," because you're tabooing it now. You're getting people in trouble for saying that statement, but in the same thing, you want them to say it because it perpetuates the ritual. It's constant. So when you talk about Israel, when you say negative things about the country, even though you perceive the country doing something, you are talking about yourself as an Israelite. Most of the American Negroes from the Americas are Israelites, y'all. They are the bloodline of the Israelites. The so-called Hebrews are the people that brought others there. They didn't just bring Europeans that were of light skin. They actually reconfigured some of the Israelites that were them. That's why they were so trusted, because it was one of their own. No Negro, no indigenous would have trusted anyone that looked different than them. To be able to do what they did in the Americas, you would have had to trust the look of the people. The reason why they trusted these beings and took on new religious backgrounds is because they look like them. The Free Palestine is a psyop. If you say it, you're ritualizing it and you're putting it in light. It's a bait and switch, all. And I'm not saying it because I don't want you to say it. I'm not saying it because I want you to think what's going over there is negative, because it's absolutely horrendous. It has nothing to do with that. It is a ritual. Rituals are based on blood sacrifices and verbal cues, verbal hymning. You keep saying it. You got all these people who have never been there saying Free Palestine. They ain't never been. They didn't know nothing about it. They're not saying free the brothers out of the jail that been arrested for selling drugs, but you selling weed all over the place. You're not saying free the sisters who've been kidnapped in the Americas and we can't find them to this day, and it's like 50 a day. You're not saying free your homies out of their life of constant indentured slavery in a system that does not recognize them, but you're going to say Free Palestine for a place you've never been to, don't know what's going on over there, and you don't know what rituals they playing over there. I'm just saying, just think a little, use your critical thinking. I just had a revelation. It's mastery at its best. Create a scenario, a situation, and the beings that are doing it are Deros, y'all. This is why I'm saying they're very smart. That's why they'll have someone like Stu Peters talking about the Jews. They'll have someone like Alex Jones talking about the Jews. They got this guy Myron talking about the Jews. But do you know who's actually the back of those guys talking about Jews all day? Do you know who's backing them? The same people they're talking about, supposedly. So how does that make sense? Myron, this guy who's supposedly fresh and fit, talking about Jews all day. He's talking about them all day. And you got to say to yourself, oh my God, but the woman who's his manager is Jewish. How is that possible? How is he talking about unless that is what they want him to do? Because they want to build this negative terminology, negativity about Israelites. Because remember, Israel is not a place. It is you. Israelite is you. So when they do that, they're talking about you. Do you understand? So it's constant. They want it to be perpetuated because they know what they aren't, but they know what you are. So if I want to do a bait and switch, I'm going to act dirty under the guise. It's like someone wearing a black mask and go robbing everybody, and then everybody's talking about Negroes all day. Negroes they're monsters, they're apes, they're savages. Meanwhile, this lunar guy is wearing a black mask, robbing people, raping, and everybody thinks it's a blackness that he's associated with, but he's wearing a mask. It's the same thing. You got a cosplaying group of subterranean, satanic, Centaurians that are playing a role of Israelites, and they're doing everything negative to sully what Israel is. It is you. Israel is not a place, it is in you. It is who you are. So when you sully that name, when you talk about Israel, when you say negative things about the place, you are talking about, especially anybody who resonates with this message. This is you talking about the Israelites, talking about, and they want that because that deactivates us from being able to take on who we truly are and to have access to leaving this place. These are cosplayers, y'all. These are Daros. They're very clever. Listen, they did a great job at this last ritual because this is the end. This is truly the end. So, proof. Proof. Just look into historical accounts. Look into the historical accounts. Proof is in the pudding. I can't give you a concept of what is when you can look it up yourself. You can look at everything that I'm saying and you can kind of look and say, oh, I understand. Why all of a sudden do you allow a group of people to talk about Palestinians all day? Like, why is that? They're saying they don't want you to talk about the Palestinians, but how come everybody's talking about them? You say that you don't want that, but you're pushing it. You're like perpetuating it. Why does everyone perpetuate it? Again, if this is about freedom of a people and people from being harmed, absolutely you should speak up and say, I don't want this group of people, whoever they are, being mistreated. But in the same point, why are you skipping the Americas? Why are you skipping the abuses happening to Israelites in the United States? Why are you skipping young boys not being able to find jobs where they are proficient enough to create a life for themselves? Why are you not standing up and say free brown Israelites in the United States? Why are you not saying we don't want people having head of our company and our music perpetuating music that is harmful? You got a bunch of Daros heading all your music companies, all of the things that are connected to real Israelites. They are dominating over you, but you don't speak against them. These are cosplaying beings that are perpetuating your own status, and they're utilizing it to hurt and harm you, but you don't say free yourself. First proof of love is love of self. When we love ourselves, why don't we speak about freedom of ourselves first? You cannot give from a half empty cup. You cannot give from a placement of deficiency. How do you have a group of people speaking about freedom for others when you aren't even free to speak on freedom for yourself? This is where we have to start using our critical thinking and thinking, why would a group of people tell you to speak about a whole place in the Middle East that you have no connection to? Why are they telling you to speak about groups of people that you have no ties to? Why are you even involved in foreign politics when your own country is doing diabolical things on your ground in real time to you and your family? So if I'm telling a lie, why aren't we talking about those things? So I'm just here to tell you that I've claimed my status as an Israelite. I've claimed it. I am that. And under that guise, I will keep my own name protected and who I am and what I represent. And it is absolutely the opposite of everything those Daros, those cosplaying satanic, ritualistic, demonic beings are doing. I represent families, safe, healthy families, good, healthy relationship dynamics, the safety of indigenous children and people all over the earth. I wish for the earth to be protected, to be safe, for all of the wildlife to have a place and a good status with us in our home. I wish for everyone's children to be safe and well. That is not the status of a being that are doing those things and perpetuating those things under your name, under your status, and they're making you talk about yourself dirty. So I would say this. Take a moment today, if you have children, go look into some amazing books that talk about who came to this country, under what guise they came, and talk about the indigenous groups that were already existing here, and some which held the status as Israelites that were incentivized to change their practices, that their original practices that were very, what you perceive to be Hebrew-like, or I don't want to say, because I don't want to connect it to a group of people that are cosplaying it, but you understand. What was the incentive for you got to ask yourself, why did all of Central, South, and Caribbean and parts of North America all convert to Catholicism? What was the reason for that? Why particularly Catholicism? Where did the Romans go after the fall of Rome? How come they made it seem like the fall of Rome just happened? Where did the Romans go? They went into the Americas, y'all. That's what they did. And when they show you that so-called what happened in the last World War happened, why are the very people that are saying that they are offended by another group of people killing them off, why would they be living on the same terrain? Why, when you go into Argentina, you were seeing Germans that are considered to be Nazis living in the same neighborhood of those who perceive to be Jewish? If they're enemies, if you have a group of people that killed you and were assassinating you and genociding you, why would you live on the same terrain as them? How could you possibly? Why would you say that Hitler went into Argentina and hid there with all the other Nazis, but in the same breath, when you go, and I've been there, y'all. I don't talk about things I don't know. I've been there. How do you say that he ran into South America, but you have amazing Israeli who just bought almost, I think it's over 4,000 hectares over in Argentina in the very location that the Nazis existing? If they're enemies, why are they friends? If they're enemies, why are they living in the same neighborhood? Because we've been told something and we've been educated in something that wasn't necessarily the truth. Things have been shared with us to a narrative that has made us feel a certain way, maybe about the Germans being so diabolical and maybe compassion about the Jews. But what if I told you, but the same people are living together in South America? What if I told you that the Italians, Rome never died, it just relocated to South America, to the Americas? What if I told you that the whole story of the transatlantic movement was a lie, geoengineered to reconfigure, rename, and reclassify a group of Israelites to perceive themselves in a way so that the cosplayers can be in close proximity and claim their fame without ever denoting who they're copying? You have a bunch of cosplaying Deros who are perpetuating a status of Israelites, but they aren't them. But they live in close proximity of true Israelites. Why would you want to be around a whole bunch of ghetto Negroes? Why wouldn't you create neighborhoods far away from Negroes? Because maybe you want to be in close proximity so you can absorb and placate and follow and mimic the very beings that you claim you are. I could be crazy. This could be a lie, y'all. I could be insane, but I am an Israelite. I am claiming that status just like I claim my trans frog status. But I'm much more. When I'm claiming a frog status, I'm being facetious. But I am also telling you to do your own research. Perhaps instead of talking about Israel, maybe you should stop. And maybe you should realize every time you word something negative about that country, you are speaking about who you are and you are talking about your ancestors. And if you realize that, you're going to stop, because every time you speak it, the cosplayers want you to. Because when you talk dastardly about them, you lift them up to the status. Okay? All right. I just go research. I could be crazy. This is Labor Day weekend. I could be making it up. I could be drawing straws where there's no connection. Just look into, and for some of you who feel like this is kind of going too far, go look at the documentary From Hebrews to Negroes and start looking at some of the stories of who was actually on those ships coming into the Americas, and go and find the actual seal of the being that was called the Emperor of the Americas and see what he looked like. Then you tell me if I'm lying. Tell me if I'm drawing straws. Tell me if I'm making all this up. Maybe it's just me and my fabric, my imagination, perceiving these things. But the Deros is a subterranean satanic Centaurian group who have utilized the form of mind control programming and AI technology to fool and to cosplay a group of beings that have the ability to use their passport to wake up and to be and have their exodus outside of this realm. I actually that's why I think it's interesting that in the Matrix, the place where the beings come from, where Neo and the original the beings that wake up, they're originally from Zion. You don't think that's interesting that the ship was called the Nebuchadnezzar? Just start going a little further and looking up into that. Find out the connection. And if you feel like you're connected and you actually feel like you have an inner knowing that you're an Israelite, come and claim it. Finally, because if you don't claim who you are, you will have a group cosplayers that will be kindly enough and smart enough and happy enough to take on your nationality, your who you are, who you actually were always generationally. But again, I could be wrong. Okay. So, all right, that's my spiel on the Darrows. Again, look at the picture of the elephantitis man. That is what I perceive to be the actual physicality of the actual Darrows. If you don't know about the Darrows, some of you are not here from, I don't know how you could come with me. Um, uh, if you don't, if you've not come to me from the ET world, because that's really my genre. Just take a look at, oh, thank you, my love. Remember that, oh, my eyes, hold on. Hold on. Remember this, anyone or anything that has to lie, cheat, steal, or kill for advantage is automatically by default the lesser. Absolutely. Thank you for my donation. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, MCGIL. Thank you. And big up to all the Israelites. The true Israelites, you are not lost. You are not part of the lost tribes. You are now going to be found. And maybe it's for you to accept your status. And again, they made all these magical laws to protect us. Why wouldn't we take advantage? They're cosplaying us to get all these advantages so that they can get tax-free homes and all of these advantages. Why wouldn't you accept and take on your I wouldn't call it a nationality, your actual, why wouldn't you take on who you are so that you too can be protected? Okay. So like I said, I am an Israelite. And again, if you say anything negative about me, I can too file a suit against you for being anti-Semitic. And the crazy thing is that I actually have Semitic blood. Small amount of it, but enough. How much do you have, Darrows? Let's do a genetic game. You're not allowed to do genetic testing, are you? But I bet you, in a court of law, if we went down to who, if you do something against me and my people who are Israelites, you are going against the laws and principles of the things that you practice. You aren't supposed to do things. You're not supposed to charge us taxes because we are Israelites. You're not supposed to come against us. But if you do something against us as Israelites, you're going to have a consequence because that's in your own bylaws. And with these wonderful laws that they have protecting us against anti-Semitism, y'all, I think we should take grand advantage. So for all you indigenous folks who are now taking on your new nationality as Israelites, let me just say, we have some rights and laws that will protect us. They didn't protect us as Negroes. They certainly didn't protect us as indigenous. But guess what? Under our new awareness of who we are as indigenous Israelites, the 12 tribes of Sheba, or wherever you believe you're the tribes of, we now are protected by anti-Semitic laws. So if anyone says anything nasty to you, let them know they're being anti-Semitic and that there's laws that protect you, and you will go for their pockets. And if they're creating hair stuff and they're creating music that is hurting our people as Israelites, we can sue them for anti-Semitism because they're creating music that lowers our children's IQ, and that is a form of genocide. So if they are heading any of the companies that create music that our children listen to, we now have a right to claim anti-Semitic, that they are doing things against us as Israelites and they're being anti-Semitic. I love you all. Okay? Have an amazing Sunday. Don't listen to me. I'm just a frog. Okay? Have an amazing day. I'll see you guys tonight on Zoom. Peace.